Okay, welcome to Session 30, The Trial of Lorpin. Lorpin of Oakbrine, Lorpin of the Anu Isles, Lorpin of the Waves. Who knows what title Lorpin will have? Hopefully it will not be Lorpin the Executed. Um, but this is the day where we find out. But before we do, we have some retellings to go through, which will begin with Ed. Since you missed a session, go ahead and give a retelling of what you did do the last session you were here, and then we'll get you caught up.
Sure. So last session that I recall, we were collecting evidence to help Lorpin, and we ended up collecting. We kind of went to the school to have some stuff replayed, and we encountered evidence that Lorpin probably is guilty. And then we, as far as I know, our plan was to just cover that up. Or misdirect. That was my record.
And you may be disappointed to discover what they've chosen to do instead. But yes, that's correct. Shari specifically went to the underground secret base, secret shipyard, and you recovered some documents about the ship, which later they were able to use the next session. Very helpful. Yeah, good job. Shari gets a character point. Reggie and Mari, of course, got their experience point for going to school. And then, what were your characters doing this previous session that you missed? Were they all at school?
Yeah, let's say we're all at school.
Cool. So they all get an additional experience point for being at school this session that you missed. Jackie, what exactly did he miss?
Well,
from the perspective of Bax, or not? I'm sorry, it wasn't Bax. It was Trumpy. Yeah.
On a caffeine-fueled research binge, Trumpy pulled out the board and the red yarn and was able to figure out that this event, the explosion of the sandwich, was actually a quasi-legal, this is the point we're going to use, quasi-legal, potentially illegal export of military grade bullshit in exchange for a hostage. And this hostage is directly related to one of the chairs of this very session.
That's right. One of the magistrates is the I guess the aunt of the hostage. Or second aunt or something. It was her cousin. Her cousin's daughter. Yeah.
Would she have known that her family was doing this though? Because she's the one who's like above board. I wonder if she's not even clued in to the things that her family was up to.
So that is a character point for Trompy for sure. And on that note, let's skip over to Troy, as I believe Chris Lassar discovered something interesting about the about that particular judge during the session.
Oh man, I learned so many things.
Shari was just to clarify one thing. Shari was not there when they discovered that Lorpin was guilty, right?
Shari was.
I was with you, right?
With Mina in the shipyard.
Okay, so Shari is unaware of that scene. That is a good thing for Lorpin.
Well, everybody knows now. That was like we had a meeting at the very beginning of the next session where we shared everything.
Potentially, I won't be playing Shari.
So Chris Lazar helped out with some stuff related to talking to dead people. And then after that, went and did research through the court documents to see about what the magistrates would be, since we found out their names, and learned extra information about 3 of them. One of them being the merchant aunt who's like a legal scholar, but she doesn't involve herself in the family business like at all. She's just like the face of the business without being part of the business.
She's not even the face of the business. She's purely into the legal stuff.
Okay. So yeah. I had a solid note of she does not involve herself in the business at all, but she has the name. And then we learned about the commander, and then that she had a relationship with one of the other, a good terms relationship with one of the other magistrates, as well as about the commander who's on the first round, and kind of just his background, why he's a magistrate, just a decorated hero kind of thing, decorated soldier, and that there was a backup of the four that doesn't care about this stuff at all, it seemed like, and it was just a merchant that does the magistrate stuff as a thing.
That describes him pretty accurately, yeah. All right. With that little side note that you gave, Vivian, let's go ahead and have the next one be... Oh, by the way, Troy, Crystalsar receives a character point. And don't forget to give experience points to Kofric and Mina. Jackie, same for Leica and Bax. And then Vivian, what did Wampy... I'm sorry...
It was Wampy.
It was Wampy. Okay, yeah. What did Wampy...
Araxi briefly had a cameo, so I'll actually mention that.
Okay.
Araxi basically went to the fishing guild and brought a bunch of the head honchos there to watch the video of what Lorpin did. The fishing guild, being mostly Anu aligned, then agreed not to send a thing to the court denying Lorpin's admission to the guild, and now recognizes him and will be attending. Raxi then proceeded to go to school as normal. Wampy, in Triplet Chaos, went out and assisted with talking to a ghost of somebody on the ship, and in fact was the one who actually did the talking, and I believe on the witness list of the defense, if I'm not mistaken, to recount said story.
Excellent. Let's add you to that list.
Wampy also proceeded to basically keep the sheriff informed of their discoveries, because but did only tell the sheriff about their discoveries, so the judge in question is still on the panel as of right now, and that decision has been delayed. So that at the last possible moment, if we decide to remove somebody, that could go on the top of the stack. Wampy then proceeded to spend the night and stayed up all night, which is great if you're a witness, helping Sheriff Gorham with like the last minute paperwork in preparation for the trial, using Wampy's fancy calligraphy set.
Awesome. So Wampy definitely gets a character point for that. And that is the sort of the key point, Ed, is that they decided that the evidence that shows that Lorpin definitely killed the first mate and set off the explosion that sank the ship also shows what the ship was carrying was not food. And they've decided that revealing that Lorpin definitely did it was worth it to also reveal that this was not an on-the-level situation with what was on the ship.
Gotcha.
All right. Speaking of summoning ghosts for testimony, Kristen, what was Francis up to?
All right. So Francis, using his connection to death, was able to successfully tap into at the gravestone of one of the people that died on the Salty Swine. He was able to tap in to see what their final moments looked like, and discovered that this survivor was underwater. They were being rescued by a rescue diver who was wearing kind of fishing guild attire. And then the rescue diver had a dagger, and I don't know if we actually saw what happened, but, then they shortly thereafter died. So probably the rescue diver stabbed them in the back. In that vision, Francis was able to confirm that the wreck was near the harbor, so it didn't really make sense that there weren't any survivors. And then, with the help of Chris Lazar successfully casting Delterra's stable meta-aether, Francis was able to commune with that survivor in order to have a conversation with him, but that completely tapped out Francis. So he was pretty much just knocked out from just successfully communing, and Wampy ended up having that conversation. And then later on, Francis helped Trumpy investigate the newspapers by bringing Trumpy coffee to help fuel the investigation. And I think that was it for Francis.
Very good. Receive a character point for Francis. And don't forget to give your kids that went to school their experience point as well. Same for you, Vivian. Last but not least, almost unrelated to what was going on, and yet still pretty hilarious. Tice, what was Glup up to?
So Glup, after finding out what happened to his Anu friend, the other orphan, he went and he forged a bunch of documents. It was the best documents ever forged. It was like quality 10. Was able to, while the thing, slip into the arresting officers' lockers to basically condemn them for it. And I think he also went to the when they were at the newspaper thing, he was about to give full details of all the bad things that have happened to the poor little Anu due to the people at the station, as well as at the docks. Also, he was one that went to the Thieves Guild to find out the information about the money connection between the family and the people that were being paid on that ship river.
That's right. Which eventually led to the full discovery between that and the newspapers, basically, that what the Salty Swine was doing that night was that on behalf of a merchant house, under the disguise of government funding, was basically transporting large quantities of magical weapons as payment for a hostage exchange in the colonies. The weapons were due to go to a mercenary company that had been disavowed by, not by Celebre, but by Corlanth. They were Corlanthi privateers that broke away and decided to try and create their own kingdom in the colonies. And in the absence of support and supplies from Corlanth, they decided they needed to do some raiding. So they kidnapped some Celebran nobles and ransomed them for magic weaponry. When the magic weaponry never arrived, they killed the kidnapped victims, displayed their bodies around the various villages of the colonies, and it was pretty gruesome. They then proceeded to basically die off because they didn't have any supplies. They didn't have any allies. They'd basically frightened or pissed off everybody around them, and piece by piece the jungle reclaimed them entirely. And now, 15 years later, they don't exist. And that's the state things are at. Go ahead and give Glup a character point, give experience points to your other characters. Let's take care of die rolls for those who went to school real quick. Anyone at the Crimson Academy that day?
Bax was at the Crimson Academy.
Which class does, or exercise does Bax wish to attempt? And does Bax have some money to buy like a nice sword for taking those sword tests?
I might.
That might be a worthwhile thing to get some pips on those rolls.
Bax has no money.
All right.
I could transfer money from one of my characters to Bax. And
If they are feeling generous.
because Trompy's loaded. Trompy's got 20 valuable coins and 10 precious gems, so...
Trumpy has been, shall we say, participating in the city's economy.
deeply. But Bax was also instrumental, I'm gonna say, in some of the stuff some more support stuff for the heist. So I'm gonna give Bax some money from Trompy. What's the best sword I can get? What's reasonable for me to get?
All right, so this is a town that is sort of built around a sword academy, and so they have some pretty good artisans here. But there is a war on. So while sword quality is available up to quality at 8, the actual like market swords are generally going to stop at quality 4, which means you're going to need to spend double to get above 4.
I will just get a Q4 sword then, if that's
Cool.
Could you commission our the hot smithing lady to make something for you?
You absolutely could.
Could I get? Okay. What can she make?
She can make anything you like.
I'm talking about.
It will be non-magical, but she can make really good stuff.
Cool. And does she charge normal price?
Since you're an Oakbrine resident, she'll give you a discount.
Nice. Okay.
So
So
for her, treat your threshold as one step lower when rolling your money.
So, am I understanding that valuable coins are dice, and then precious gems are just straight out successes?
Correct. If you just throw gems at her, of course, then yeah, she'll do it immediately. But if you want to like exploit your discount, you'll probably want to do that with coins.
And then the successes I roll determines the quality of the sword, I'm assuming.
That's right. And then add your resources into that as well. Actually, no, I'm sorry. You're having a friend do this for you, so add your connections into it.
God damn it, because my resources are... Oh, fuck!
Okay, if you want to do resources, that's okay. Resources
Thank
is the
you.
normal
I
thing.
appreciate you, thank you. Let's see. And then, so I'm lowering the threshold by 1. So it was what, T5 then?
Yep.
And then... Sorry, I need to do some transferring here. Give me a moment.
While you're working on that, is anybody else doing rolls for school stuff?
Not rolls, but I do have a couple questions.
Sure.
First off, is there a place I could look to see what some of these spells do? Like, I know what shield does. I probably know what fly does, but I have no idea what the mechanic is of Delterra's emergency rescue or Deterra or its minor sanctuary is.
Okay, cool. So Delterra's emergency rescue is a spell that locates the safest place within about a mile and takes you and anyone near you there. Um, this spell is linked up to Delterra's the Delterra Orin collaborative safety bubble, which basically creates an area where bad things have a lot of trouble happening. So it shields things from like projectiles. It shields things from poisons. It creates a safe space for emergencies. These spells are taught to emergency rescue workers because in a fantasy setting such as this, random wizard battles and dragon attacks and whatever might happen. So these are spells that are used to help keep the citizenry safe by erecting these bubbles of safety and then using these spells to teleport people that are in at-risk areas into those bubbles. If there isn't a bubble of safety available, the spell will still work. It'll just locate a space that is statistically the least likely to have, like, a building fall on it or something. The functionality of the spell is pretty interesting. It actually scans the aether for pools of entropy magic and just avoids them. It goes to the furthest distance from entropy magic that it can, figuring that that's the place that is least likely to have a bad thing happen.
Can I argue my gun through pips, or is it just pocket money pips?
It's just pocket money pips for a purchase.
Cool.
If you were smithing it yourself, that might be different.
And spell books, twice the quality is how much space they have, right?
Correct.
Okay. Actually, a fair bit of space to add some stuff here.
So I'm rolling my resources of 2, 3 valuable coins that were given to me by Trumpy, and then I have. So I'm going to roll that, and I'm going to also add 2 precious gems as automatic successes. So I'm going to do the roll and then +2.
Okay.
Fuck yeah.
Hell yeah. So you have a quality 5 sword, and you may give that sword a property from the properties list. You can decide that later.
So instead of having a Q7 sword, I have Q5 sword with a property?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. You have 2 additional successes. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Then you have a Q7 sword with 2 properties. You may choose 2 properties from the Talus wiki and apply them to your sword.
Yeah. I've been trying to think of it like I guess it's going to be magical devices. I sort of want to find a way of like Elros trying to get bracers or something to be able to help try to channel his like the weird things that are tangle in his hands more efficiently.
So you might want to look into like crafting a magical wand or a magical staff that can let you basically tap into the staff through your hand to either like store pre-prepared spells or just give you bonuses to casting. There could be a lot of options there.
Okay.
Even if you yourself don't have the ability to craft, there are lots of people in the school who do. You could very easily find and pay a more skilled student to put something together for you.
Yeah, I do have the cash for it right now.
Very good. I encourage you to look at the properties for like magic items on the wiki to figure out what you want to set up the staff to do. Because there is some really good stuff that I think you would like, but you'll want to take a look at that. Magic staves, they're more about the properties than they are about the pips. Pips are nice when you're casting, and there's nothing wrong with having something that just makes your spells a little easier to get good rolls on, but like the magic properties can straight up just be extra spells you have per day and stuff like that.
Under Dale properties, right?
Yes.
Another question. Did you tell me what level the encrypted spell in that spell book is?
I did. I hope you wrote it down.
I did not. I want to say it was 2. Like, it's in my brain as 2, but I didn't write it. I wanted to double check before I started
That
writing spells.
sounds right. It sounds like it would be a second circle spell. How did you record it then? If you didn't, like, how did you
just
record
recorded
pages?
encrypted spell. I didn't put the circle.
Okay. Because it's reducing the number of pages the book has, which is important.
So it would reduce it by 2 pages.
Yeah.
So I'd have 4 pages. Yeah. Okay, I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. Is there anybody else that needed to take care of any school stuff before we proceed with the trial?
Yeah, I actually have to roll my tests now. And I have this.
Very good.
I'm going to worry about the properties later because I don't think
they're not relevant to the tests. Yeah.
Exactly.
Meow.
Sorry, I have a lot of tabs open. Hang on.
Oh yeah. Here.
It's a standard sword drill, yeah?
Yeah, so it would be... Well, there's 2 different types depending on what you're doing, but... which class are you taking?
So I'm looking at it says standard sword drills.
Okay.
Either or both of the following, so I can do 1 or 2 tests.
Yes. So I believe one of them is Vigor plus melee, and the other one is Agility plus melee. And for either one of them, if you have a martial potential, you can add that as well.
I only have a heroic potential, which is not relevant.
You can spend experience points on such things before you make the roll as well. You can acquire...
I don't think I got the points.
Okay, no worries.
Because how much does a potential cost?
So if you... potential requires that you have a catalyst. If you do not have a catalyst as an inherent part of your character, then catalysts are acquired as talents. So 9 experience points or 3 character points.
I ain't got the dosh for that.
No worries.
For sure. Okay, let me just... I'm sorry, there's so many that have like 3 different pages that can do this roll. This is my bigger melee test.
Wow, nice.
And that's the other one.
All right.
So pass fail. Right, because I needed to clear 5.
I think so. So you break even. You spend a token, gain a token.
So I'm still at 3 sword tokens type. Right?
Yep. You have enough dice on your vigor test that it's not impossible for you to make that that expert one to get your master die too. You wouldn't have made it on. Maybe you would have made it on this roll.
I would have made it on the first roll.
Yeah.
But I would have spent all 3 merits, and if I failed that test, I would have had to worry. Ooh, yeah.
It's a risky one, yeah.
Yeah, with where my dice are at right now, it's not possible to risk just yet.
Fair enough.
Max has got some pretty chunky rolls now. Nice. Alright, I'm going to be staring at the properties page here for a while. So.
Okay. So let's move on then to today's adventure. Alrighty. Of course, we'll want everyone to choose which character is going to come out, but this adventure starts very early in the morning. The sun has not even risen. Miss Mabel is making an early breakfast. Any children that are participating in the trial don't have to go to school today. So, those of you that are going to be giving testimony, now, I am going to rule that you don't have to go if you don't want to. Those of you that were supposed to give testimony have given written depositions. And so those depositions are valid enough as your testimony, so you don't have to send the kid there in person. But you can if you want to. So doing so would mean that they would get to roll some dice to try and do persuasion checks to give bonuses to Gorham as he gives his presentation. Gorham is there at the breakfast table, eating a lovely breakfast that Miss Mabel and Grammy, who's come to visit, they've worked together to put together a nice little breakfast to get everybody energized and ready for a big day. Gorham is looking at his notes about the trial. Anyone who wishes to can open up the Lorpin's trial document to see pretty much what's going on. So, Gorham knew what the stack of assertions looked like going into this. And Gorham gave 4 assertions of his own to try and counter what was going on, which he can happily talk about to you kids to try and figure out like what the strategy is. This morning, he found out that the prosecution has added an assertion on top of his, in which they are claiming that Lorpin stole treasure from the Salty Swine, which is designed specifically to nullify Gorham's claims that Lorpin was not acting out of self-interest and did not enrich himself in any way from the destruction of the Salty Swine. Of course, when they present that evidence, or that he stole treasure, that if they have evidence of that would be problematic. And he says there is a piece of evidence currently awaiting presentation for the trial today, which is 3 chests of treasure. Mostly gold coins. Says that doesn't track with what we saw on board the ship, but if Lorpin took any of the sunken weapons and sold them, maybe?
Araxi's going to very quietly say, I could testify as to the where the treasure came from.
Says, oh, you know something about this?
Rax is going to basically just walk up to Gorham and basically whisper in his ear so nobody else can hear. It's mine, actually.
Gorham face palms for a moment and goes, okay. I'm going to need to know how this happened and how we can prove it happened. And I'm going to need to really quickly so I can get these assertions on the stack before things start.
Araxi is basically going to explain that Araxi was carrying that treasure to send back home, and was going to visit Lorpin to see how to do so when it basically tried to make it sound like it's her personal piggy bank, essentially. From her time in Celebre, and go like, I was trying to send that back home. I was to my family. I was seeking out Lorpin's help. That's when the arrest happened. That's how I ended up looking like this. I imagine Raxi's wounds are now healing a bit, but Raxi still doesn't look great.
So Gorham kind of pokes at his own forehead and ponders. He says, okay. I might be able to just go off of this could be any Anu's treasures. It did have an Anu mark of some kind of spirit mark or something. But
Sky Spirit. Sky Spirit.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Of course, you would know it's your mark, right? That makes sense. So there are other Anu, so I can certainly cast doubt on the assertion that this is definitely Lorpin's treasure without necessarily exposing you to legal harm. But if you testify, it will 100% remove this from a worry for Lorpin, but then put you in legal jeopardy. Potentially.
You just owe taxes. Wouldn't that be the full of it?
Not if the rest of you got the amount you were supposed to get, and this is excess tax that you weren't supposed to take.
Araxi did not tell Gorham about the origins of the treasure, just that it was Araxi's.
Okay. If this is legit Thieves Guild take, and you've got receipts and everything, then you're not in any trouble.
Can she surrender the full value and not get in trouble?
Says the value's surrendered already. It's in an evidence locker.
Oh, well then you're kind of toasted then.
Well, that's. Think about it. He says to Raxi while he looks at the rest of what's going on. He says, "All right." So the first thing I needed to add to that stack right away was that Lorpin must be imprisoned, because they didn't put that on the stack, and this is a really wicked little legal trick. By only putting executed and banished and leaving out imprisoned, they've made it so that if we lose, Lorpin will probably be executed. And the only way to sort of prepare against that would be for me to argue that he should be imprisoned instead of executed. And I can't argue that down there with those, because the stack goes in order. So I have to argue that before we start talking about whether or not he's guilty. This prosecutor is very much on top of her game, and it's a little frustrating. But I have a thought, and I want to see what you kids think before I present this to Lorpin. Because under the rules of procedure, I'm allowed to present my assertion as either binary or factual. Almost all of these are being presented as factual. If they are discarded, then they're discarded. They're not on the board anymore. But if I present it as binary, I will then have the option to argue that it's not true and that it needs to be recorded that he should never be imprisoned, no matter what. And if that happens, then that's going to put the prosecution on the back foot. It's going to surprise them. It's one of the few surprising things we can do in a trial. The problem is that if we lose, then they won't imprison Lorpin. If they accept the assertion, they also might tell me I'm full of shit and he should be imprisoned, and that's fine too, but it won't be us saying it. It's a risk. You kids have any thoughts on whether that risk is worth it from what you've looked up about these magistrates?
We know that as long. I think that that's, or who is it? Wampy probably. We all know this now, right?
Yeah,
We all know what was found.
He's
That
speaking
Ness is
openly.
going to say, because this is Ness kind of thing, is that we know that if we keep Lady Alpetty and Commander Duros, that they are likely to vote together. And Lady Alpetty follows the law.
So we know.
But Lady
I need their names.
Lady Alpetty Nantar is the one who technically might have a connection to this. It might be recuse herself, essentially.
Right.
But she's the one who's super lawful. Commander
Nantar...
Duros is the guy who just finds the best legal scholar and follows their lead.
Yeah, and then Reed Page and Nantar are on good terms, and usually I think from what we learned, they usually go the same way.
You didn't get any. You didn't have time to research Reed Page, but in your research about Nantar, you have noticed Reed Page's name comes up a lot as a colleague that she respects.
Yeah, it's an inference we're making that that they at least are on good terms, so maybe they'll go the same direction, but it's not really a guarantee. But they're probably the same kind of person. They're focused on the law, that stuff's important to them. But yeah, the commander will follow the most scholarly magistrate. Then yeah, if we get to the backup, they don't care. They care about what money stuff happened.
Yeah.
And within city only, so outside of city they don't care.
Can I have Wampy make a roll to have learned something about Reed Page while Wampy stayed up all night as a thing that Wampy could have done?
Oh yeah, Wampy. You took a tax to.
I took a tax to assist Gorham.
Yes, you can have done that. Now you won't have access to any libraries, so you're just going off of the books Gorham dragged back to the office, because the libraries are closed after dark. But yeah, go ahead and make a either a scholarship or an investigation roll.
Wampy has neither of those.
Roll that focus as good as you can.
Roll that focus. Ooh. I'm not going to argue that the pages are made of tree.
You should, because solipsism.
But I was going to. If I do solipsism, I might just put facts in there.
Do you have advantage? Oh yeah, no, solipsism will definitely do that. You can accidentally trick yourself by introducing facts.
Do I have advantage? The only one I could argue for is does not accept limits.
One of the risks of solipsism, actually, is that because the things you do generally only affect you, you might make it real for you that somebody has some feature, but you don't make it real for them or for anyone else. And so when you meet them, they'll be friendly, and everyone else will see them being mean to you, that kind of thing.
Oh, can I actually? This might be a bad idea, but argue does not accept limits by not accepting that the library is closed and getting the books anyway.
Yes, I will allow that. You'll have to tax it, obviously, to trigger your spell. But yeah, for some reason the library is open and you have access to the library.
With this, okay, yeah. So as 4.
So you'll be able to give yourself some pips on this.
I'm also kind of sneaky, so I could add my gift of the small. Am I? Or am I just not accepting the library's closed?
No, what you did is you put yourself into the book return slot. You fucking closed the door on yourself and got in. That's what you did.
This is a crime roll.
You went to no. What you did is you said that's a door for Wampy, and you went inside.
It does sound like a crime roll now, with my solipsism added. you know.
Yeah, but what you're doing has no bearing on crime. What you're doing is looking for information.
That is what I'm doing, but what I was saying is that it felt like a crime roll for breaking in. But yeah, all right.
Oh, if you want to like add crime to your solipsism roll.
Well, that was my solipsism roll without the crime added.
Okay.
Um,
So yeah, you've got give yourself 3 pips of library access to your focus roll.
Oh my god, you did
2
it!
successes. Yeah. So one of the first things that you find out about Chamden Reed Page is that Chamden Reed Page is from the Rights and Properties Guild and is a member in good standing with his own law firm. He focuses primarily on disputes, so mostly civil cases, not so much criminal cases, but is a well-respected lawyer. And with that second, you find out that, his relationship with Alpenny Nantar goes back a long time. They are both legal scholars who like to very publicly debate each other, intentionally taking opposite stances to keep their wits sharp.
So going the binary route might cause them to debate over it.
yeah.
The magistrates do not debate. The magistrates listen to the debate between the prosecution and the defense, and they vote.
Yeah, I would take that more as they're going to
really care about who wins that debate, essentially.
Yeah, they're going to be like like judges at an like Olympic figure skating event. They're going to be sitting there with their notebooks counting points, right?
Yeah, they will probably come to the same conclusion kind of thing because they challenge each other so often.
So
And they're likely to care more about procedure than they are going to be about emotion.
So we need to find solid, like, legal arguments, not appeal to any kind of fucking feelings.
Yeah. Heavy emphasis on this was not an attack against the Libre. Heavy emphasis on this was an off-the-books operation. Heavy emphasis on this was actually preventing a Celebran enemy from being armed.
That seems
So
like
that
pretty
way,
rock solid defense, as best as we can come up with.
That way, I would say that arguing it as a binary point would probably work best. Because they are more willing to take those strong stances if the debate is well supported.
Gorham kind of furrows his eyebrows and goes, "I'm not so sure you're right about that. The whole idea of making it a binary choice was so that I could argue that Lorpin is a man of the sea and that to imprison him would be a great harm to him psychologically, above and beyond, that death is preferable to imprisonment for a sailor such as he. This is an emotional appeal. If these people are immune to emotional appeal, then when it comes down to whether or not Lorpin should be executed, the fact that we argued he should never be imprisoned would just say, very well then, he should be executed. And what we want, if we're going to do that strategy, is we want, when we get to the executed part, we want them to think, oh dear, but we already said he can't be imprisoned, he should only be banished or something. That's what we want them to think. So I'm actually leaning the other way based on what you kids are telling me, but yeah. We should talk to Lorpin about this too. So who all's coming with me? He finishes his orange juice, thanks Miss Mabel for the delicious pancakes, and is ready to get up. Grammy gives him a cookie to go.
I'm gonna bring up Kyle for this one. Also, potentially the admissions from the arresting officers might be thrown out. I can't tell you why, but it might be.
Gorm
That's what I was
says,
telling Gorm.
if you can't tell me why, then they won't be, because I'm the one who's going to need to have them thrown out. I hope you understand that no assertion can be presented by anyone other than the prosecution and the defense.
Okay, I guess I'll just be blunt for you. There's evidence against them that they were paid off, but I don't know if it's been recorded yet or not.
Evidence that the arresting officer was paid to arrest Lorpin specifically?
Yes.
Interesting. Who paid him? Or them, I guess. There were 4 arresting officers, right? Who paid them?
It's like, who do you want to have paid them? I can just make that happen.
Actually, he did make it up. I'm checking to see if he remembers.
It was the man. It started with an M. I remember that because it was between that and a different guild. The Mercantile. I think it was.
Was it the Teamsters Guild?
Yeah, I think you
It was Teamsters. Yeah.
It was Teamsters or Textile. I can't remember if it was like.
Yeah, Teamsters.
Or the Mining Cooperative, but Mining Cooperative is not an active guild
Guild.
in Sleeper anymore.
A victimless crime, then, if it's the mining crime.
Indeed.
I think you said
There's
Teamsters
no
Guild,
one.
though. That's what I remember.
The mining cooperative is like there's like no one there to dispute it, right?
What would be their motive, though? For
Yeah, it was a Teamsters.
Mining cooperative.
It was a Teamsters Guild because I know because it was Vivian and I were talking about it and
Yeah, I think Teamsters Guild was the one we agreed on.
Yeah. All right. He says, so that's an assertion I need to start writing.
Araxi is going to look actually at Reggie and say it was not legal taxable income, but it was repossessing what the mining cooperative took from the Anu, much the same way that the mercenaries got their lost wages.
Yeah, but there's no receipts for that.
There are no receipts. There was no receipts for the lost wages.
Yes, there were.
Reggie
There were
shrugged.
explicitly receipts for that from Reggie, right?
Yeah.
Araxi will not give up the money for... Araxi believes that money is hers and has no interest in giving up the money.
Reggie shrugs and says, "The money belongs to a foreign entity. The mining cooperative is not part of Sleeper anymore. Tax laws don't apply." As far as the law is concerned, the closest thing that would apply is that's just spoils of war.
So Araxi will testify to it as being Araxi's.
Okay.
Reggie says, if we have time, I mean, I could found you as a mercenary corporation, in which case it would just be loot.
Do we have time?
Battlefield spoils, that's totally legit. The mining cooperative isn't a taxable entity at this point, so.
At the moment, you guys believe you have about an hour before the trial starts.
Reggie says, it might take longer than an hour.
But you could get started on it. Maybe you'd finish during the trial.
And you can file a motion to get an extension and be like, hey, we're starting this paperwork, we're working on it right now, we'll file it later.
Reggie says, I've got an idea, give me a minute, and then I want to go and find one of my mercenary people and just say, hey, would you be willing to take some spoils of war off my hand or some loot off my hand? Just, temporarily, we're in the process of maybe filing a mercenary contract, but we haven't quite gotten there yet, and there's some vague loot we want to try and avoid the taxing thing. They're technically spoils.
your your mercenary buddies are hanging out at Grammy's inn for the morning breakfast. The bright and early ones, anyway, the ones that have shit they need to get done for the day. You can find some. You need them to recruit Araxi as a member, so that Araxi's acquisition of the money can be claimed as a spoil.
Okay, you looking for an Anu?
All of them
Araxi
say,
will-
oh yeah, absolutely.
All right.
The question is, which one does Araxi want to join? Because I don't have details on them, you can just make up the mercenary company that you want to join.
Definitely has to be a
we'll
seafaring
fill in the
one, right?
details later.
Yeah, seafaring one. One that definitely has never attacked the Anu themselves. Likely one that was more focused on like the war with Apthus, or what's the other one? Hathil?
Corlanth.
Korloth. Someone focused on the war with Korloth would be probably apt. If there's just create one, has it attack the Anu, probably has a couple of Anu members. And yeah, Araxi will sign on.
Gorham is, as you're like talking about this, Gorham is like, awesome. While you're doing that, I need some other kids to go to the Thieves Guild. Doesn't matter if you're members or not. I need you to get one of the empty treasure chests that was taken from the mining cooperative, and I need a receipt from them stating that that's what it is. For you to bring that as evidence, so that we can demonstrate that the chests are the same and that this is not a chest from the Salty Swine. So while Reggie and Araxi are taking care of Araxi's new mercenary company affiliation, which I am certain will come back later as Araxi becomes an adult. And yeah, who's going to go talk to the Thieves Guild and get that? I'm trying to sort out here exactly which characters are coming along for the ride. Ed, is Reggie going to be your character for this session?
Yeah. As far as Reggie's concerned, this is school, so it's fine.
Zara will go to the Thieves Guild.
Cool.
So, I feel like Trompy should go, but I don't know.
So,
I don't know what everyone needs right now. I don't mind playing any of my characters.
Okay. Yeah. Whoever you
What
want
do
to
we
bring
need?
out.
Do we need the muscle? Do we need the smarts? Do we need the charm? What do we need?
Today you need probably a mix of smarts and charm. It's not terrible to have members of the Crimson Guard present with you as like a way to like show that you're not criminals, you're good, solid people and stuff. But while that was super helpful for Miss Mabel pulling off her little stunt to get Araxi out, in the course of a trial, the judges are not likely to be fooled by such theater. Whereas very clever wordplay just might win the day. But you never know. Like, in the middle of the trial, somebody might need to pull a My Cousin Vinny and, like, run out and acquire some important piece of evidence. So, who knows?
Micah has a persuasion of 2. That's what I've got.
Kristen, did you say you're bringing out Zara as your character for this one?
Yeah. Oh, she's been cooped up in the library studying, and going to school a lot lately, so she's looking to get in on the adventure.
I guess I can bring Leica. I feel like that's the character that makes most sense to bring for this adventure.
Wait a second. Was Francis going fishing 2 sessions ago?
Yes, he wanted to level up his leadership.
Oh, fascinating. Where is Francis going to school today?
Um, we'll go with the Animators Club. Although I will say Francis is more interested in kind of speaking to the dead. I don't know if the SAU might be a better place for that.
Better fit.
For sure.
Okay, in that case, he'll go there.
It's like just the divination school, right?
Divination and necromancy. Divination lets you see past events. Necromancy lets you speak directly to deceased spirits. Both have uses.
Great. Yeah, basically after that experience, communing with the survivor, or not the survivor, the sailor that died, he's very interested in continuing studying that.
Okay. You can, you can learn some spells about that. The necromancy teacher that you talked to before is there and available to teach you stuff.
Awesome.
Also willing to find more people's fathers.
Oh my god, I can see us in the future. It's the triplets. We have our own detective agency.
Oh, it's going to be so good.
I love that so much.
Sure.
Oh, well,
We try to patent the process of talking to the dead as an investigative tool, and we're going to be fucking set for life.
This is the greatest spin-off series. What would the name of the detective agency be?
3 halflings in a trench coat, man. I don't fucking know.
That's well.
That's pretty
That's a
solid.
good-
Yeah.
All right, so we've got Araxi coming out.
I'm still debating on whether Whompy comes and testifies in person.
Okay.
Because Whompy can also testify to the nature of the crystal ball, and that is 100% accurate recordings.
Absolutely. And remember that you don't necessarily need anybody to testify, but it is beneficial. But their written depositions are sufficient.
I know that the red depositions are sufficient, but Whompy can't. Whompy has the persuasion. He has the performance. He's got some charm. Whompy also has not announced their new lineage yet, which is potential to happen. So, yeah, I think that I'm going to have both of them come. It's annoying sharing the experience, but I just think that it's better for the outcome. Araxi's not missing this for the world.
Right on. So Whompy, Araxi, Kofric, is that correct?
Yeah.
Awesome. Kyleel, is that correct?
Yes, he's been spending a bunch of time with the survivors, and then he decided to go out and do something else.
Okay.
Can I take this moment to retroactively spend experience points at SAU if I deem it appropriate? Because I have like 12 experience points banked with Leica. And quite a few character points.
So Trompy was at SAU, it looks like 2 sessions ago. The only one you wouldn't be able to use the character point you just earned from the last session.
No, for Leica.
Oh, like
Oh, fuck. Never mind. I realize I'm bringing Trompy. That's what we need, right? We need a brainy person, not a persuadey person. Is that correct?
I thought you were Raylan.
That's what I thought. I thought it was brainy.
You could bring whoever you want. You could have Zara and Leica team up. That way you can get some Leica action.
Yeah.
I would prefer that just because we need to spend some time in that character.
I think the only triplet that kind of has a benefit from going to the trial is Walpy, solely because Walpy has gotten them onto the witness list.
I will continue bringing Leica then, in which case my question still stands, I suppose. But I'm not sure if there's any relevant skills I can do. I might just handle that on the back end right now, just for my own sake.
Well, so Leica was in school the previous day, so Leica can have spent experience points at that school, no problem.
Excellent, thank you.
I presume Leica was at the university?
Yes.
Cool. So yeah, everything that university has available is available. That includes, in addition to actually spending experience points, you also can, for free, learn a spell. And by learn, I mean copy into your spell book if you still have space.
I can train persuasion. Fuck yeah, let's go.
Okay, I think we've got the list of everybody who's coming out. So, some of you are going about some different tasks here. None of those tasks really require roles. I just want to know who's doing what. Just so that I know what is getting done.
I think Zara and Leica are going to the Thieves Guild to find one of the chests so that we have a matching chest that proves that this chest did not come from the Salty Swine. Or those 3 chests.
Okay.
And maybe Zara will ask Goran? Is that his name? Goran?
Gorham, yeah.
Gorham? If he could give a note to give to the Thieves Guild, so just in case we need some sort of backing for us being there and getting that chest.
Okay, yeah, he gives you a note. And then I just need a quick roll from both of you. This will be a combined roll. You'll add your successes together for how well put together the receipt is that they write for you. Basically, there are certain things the receipt needs to have, and this is your ability to notice that they are missing and force them to add them.
Cool.
You're getting the receipt either way, but this will improve the quality of the receipt. So, yeah, both of you to roll perception plus scholarship.
Sorry, perception scholarship?
Yes, please. Quality 4, very nice. All right. Definitely sent the right 2 for the job. Even with the low rolls, you still nailed it.
Nice.
And then, let's see. That was not the only thing going on. Because Gorham was going to go do something with somebody else, right? I'm having a memory issue here. What was going on before we were doing that?
Araxi was signing up for a mercenary guild, I remember.
That's right. That's what was happening. Okay, so what's the mercenary guild that Araxi has signed up with?
I haven't come up with a name yet, I probably should. I might just. I have a source for emergency coming up with names, but it's going to take me a minute. But essentially, it is a former like mercenary slash privateer guild, very similar to Lorpin himself, actually, where they mostly focus on the war with Korloth and um, are just, you know, protecting Celebri's borders, protecting, you know, protecting, air quotes, interests of their benefactor. And yeah, that's basically where their focus is. They don't really go into the colonies all that often, but they operate near there. Araxi probably is her.
My quick shortcut for coming up with mercenary company names is pick a metal and then an animal.
Golden Swift. That was my first thought. It's like a kind of bird.
Yeah. Iron Gulls. The lead porpoise.
That seems counterintuitive for.
If they're on ships a lot, I don't think they want to call themselves the Lead anything.
Yeah.
Some mercenary companies choose names to sound intimidating. Some choose names to keep a low profile. It really depends on what the type of company they are.
The Tinned Fish.
See, because that sounds more like a merchant company than anything else. So if you're trying to keep a low profile and you call yourself the Tinned Fish, that like really helps out with stealth stuff.
Also, now I just want to go to Comic-Con. There's a place right outside of San Diego Convention Center.
Oh shit, that's
called
where
the
I got
Tinned
that
Fish.
from. Okay. I thought it sounded familiar.
Who? I'm trying to think of, like, I think the Golden Swift actually is my favorite of the ones that have been suggested.
Alrighty, the Golden Swift.
Yeah. I'm also going to narratively say they already have an Anu membership.
Oh yeah, any mercenary company that operates at sea these days has some Anu membership in it.
Also, you should Google what Swifts look like. They're very fucking cute.
They are. I know what Swift is, but yeah. There's an image for you.
How do you spell Swift?
Like you think it's spelled.
Like the word.
So I'm just getting like pictures of tuna.
I would put Swift Bird in the
Yeah,
search
I
bar
posted
and
one
got
in
it.
session if you want to take a look.
Oh my goodness, that is cute. Oh yeah. Okay. Good call.
Actually, does Lorpin have like the name of the privateer group that he was a part of? I know it was under Lowendahl, but because if not, it would make sense for it to be a part of Lorpin. You know, if I don't know how mercenary guilds are they just one ship or are they like several?
Most mercenary companies are going to have multiple ships. Lorpin, when Lorpin was working under Lowendahl, they did not have they had a privateering contract, but they were not a mercenary company. They were just a ship, which sailed under Lowendahl. So that was their license. Right. Lowendahl had the privateering license. If they were to have named themselves as a company, it would have been the Lowendahl Mercenary Company. It would have been very straightforward.
All right. Well, Goldswift.
Gold or golden?
I said golden, I think.
Also, kind of sounds like a merchant ship as well.
Kind of does.
Could go either way, right? It's ambiguous sounding.
Just leave out the mercenary company at the end of it. Just call yourself the Golden Swift, and people will think it's a ship name.
Exactly. It works on many levels.
All right. You guys reconvene at the courthouse. Is anybody doing anything that would take longer than an hour? Cool. So you guys convene at the courthouse. You meet up with Lorpin in the private chamber for defense attorneys discussing things. Lorpin is very emotional. He's just so glad to see everybody. Lowendow is there, along with his kids. They've come dressed in full Crimson Guard dress uniform. Even though they're still trainees, they're doing their best to show solidarity. Also, some high-ranking representatives from the Fishing Guild are present. So all the sort of non-important people are sort of filing out to wait outside, and Gorham is going to stay in there with Lorpin to discuss strategy. And then after a bit, they emerge, Lorpin being escorted by Crimson Guard, handcuffed, and everybody proceeds into the courthouse, where the Justicar, Nariata, is ready to present. She is in her late 50s, but battle-scarred, and she is in... it's not exactly dress uniform, it's dress armor. She is prepared for a fight in the event that the court becomes violent. So whereas Lowendell's kids are in dress uniform, which is not actually armor, it's just very nice cloth clothing with nice red capes, Celebran city symbols on their chests. She and the guards are actually wearing full plate mail armor. It's still very nice. It's polished. It's perfect. She's got the really nice flowing cape and everything. But yeah, aside from a helmet, which she's not wearing to keep her head clear for viewing and speaking, she is dressed for war. And you can see some scars on her that look like she's experienced more than her fair share of combat. She, once the defense and the audience is seated, which again mostly consists of Fishing Guild, the Lowendows, a few people from Oakbrine, who are sort of interested to see it happen. There does not seem to be much audience of people that are against Lorpin. So in that regard, you don't have a bunch of people chanting "Down with the killer of the sandwich," which could have happened if not for Araxi's actions the previous day, as well as you guys choosing to release the footage to show that Lorpin did not kill the salty swine for no reason. And yeah, at this point, the magistrates file in. So the chair of the people always comes in first. So Lady Alpenny Nantar. Also in advanced years, you'd guess probably mid-40s. Lord Shamden Reedpage, who actually looks fairly young, like a late 20s kind of guy, but very studious looking, comes in, takes his seat. And then the Commander Duros of the Flint Eagle steps in. He takes the chair of the nation, and he is also dressed in armor. His armor doesn't look quite so resplendent. It's a little more practical, but he does have little badges of military campaigns and stuff. This guy is old. He's an old guy. Probably the oldest person in the room. He's done this before, you know that from your research, but he still double checks that that's the right chair for him to sit in with the other magistrates. And then nothing happens. And Lady Alpenny sort of gets the Justicar's attention and says, there may be a delay, as Lord Beltos was not in the dressing room. And so the Justicar, Neriata, she says, I understand. I will send out someone to locate him. If everyone can just wait for a bit. At this point, Commander Duros kind of rises and says, why do we need him? Like, that drunken asshole never accomplishes anything. He's not actually voting. The Reed Page and Nantar basically, like, taking a side with him. You can hear them whispering. It's like, it's not about him voting. It's about, like, you know how, like, when you go into town, you don't just leave your daggers behind in camp because you don't think you'll need them? He's a backup weapon in the arsenal of justice. And we got to make sure he's here to listen in case one of us needs to go. And so as they sort of talk him down, Gorham rises and says, if there's going to be a delay, is it permissible that I spend this time performing additional research and writing for our defense? And Nariata says, yes, very well. I expect this will take an hour or two. We'll locate and sober up the good Lord Ingram. And Tarim, I'm sorry. And so a couple guards go out, and Gorham kind of is looking at Lorpin and is like, all right, let's make the most of this time. Does anyone want to do anything additional in this bonus hour that you guys have received?
Can Araxi get a uniform from the mercenary company that she's just joined? If not, she doesn't
Yes.
already have it.
Okay.
Araxi would like to get that.
Okay,
And
so you
wear
go
that for the
out.
crown.
They'll have to get one of the Anu ones and cut it down to your size. That'll take about an hour. That's a good thing to do for that hour.
I think I was finding an excuse like basically to make sure that the resolve of Gorm and Warpin are steady. I'm gonna want to Kyle to pull out a little spotted Astra he got from one of the the survivors, whoever that he's been spending so much time with, just to be able to perform the rituals to try to get his rituals more on, and also to help like steady the two so that they're ready for combat.
So Gorham declines the Ashta. He's aware of what it is, and he wants to keep his mind clear. Ashta is super alcoholic. But you perform a little blessing ritual. Do you want to use real magic?
Yes.
Cool. What is the effect you're trying to create?
The effect I'm trying to create is basically that sort of that, you know, that moment when you just had enough to drink that you get like that moment of drunken clarity. I sort of like want to give that like clarity to both of them.
Okay, so you're trying to bonus their mental abilities, basically.
Yes.
Okay. So this can be just a basic help to action for their mental abilities. Go ahead and roll. Do you have advantage in this?
I have the robes of Jonathan.
No. Like, does one of your traits apply?
Let's see. I got far from home. It's one of my traits. I don't think I have another trait.
You don't have any other traits other than far from home?
Yeah, I only have.
Okay.
Yeah, the only things I have are play as brothers, then Jonathan, and then far from home.
All right, so this is just a straight roll of your potential. and it'll tax your potential by 1, and the resulting dice you can give to Gorham as bonus dice to use on mental abilities. Right on. So Gorham has a bonus die up his sleeve he can use if he needs it, and he's gonna. Alright, your ritual complete. Araxi's got a new uniform. And they, since you're now a member, they feel kind of responsible for you, so they send a chaperone to accompany you to the courthouse, just in case. So you kind of have your own little personal guard.
I imagine uniforms, like, because it's just been cut down, like, it's fresh looking. It's still got all the creases.
Yeah. Very, like, straight out of the tailors. Did anyone else want to do anything while they're sobering up the backup magistrate?
So Zara spent a lot of quality time with Lorpin early on at Old Oakbrine at the Fishing Guild, and really, has a bunch of stories of their time together. And I think what she would do while she's here is try and further convince folks in the audience of like Lorpin's innocence, or at least his character, to try and make sure that everyone who's currently like in the audience is even more on Lorpin's side, in case any information comes out that might potentially sway them the other direction.
That is an excellent plan. So go ahead and give a performance plus empathy roll. And if you have any relevant potentials that you can trigger with advantage, let me know.
Sorry, it was persuasion with
Empathy.
empathy. Okay. I don't think I have anything that'll give me advantage realistically. Yeah, so I think I'm just going to have to go with the pure roll.
Awesome. All right. The condition of the audience may be important to the chair of the people, since they represent the people as a sort of visual aid for that chair. So that is not without merit what you just done there.
Wonderful. Yeah, Zara kind of just goes around and she's like, starts sitting next to different people and talking, telling stories of her time with Lorpin, about how he was kind of like a second father for her, when she first joined the orphanage, and really taught her a lot about fishing and spent a lot of quality time with her.
Awesome. I love it. There are still 3 of you that haven't announced that you want to do anything. Did you want to take any actions? You've got about an hour before the final guy.
I can take a similar action. I don't know
Okay.
how much more that would help, or if we should diversify our efforts, though.
Bonuses are additive at this point, so you could do things that increase the total number of successes given towards the audience. You could do things that'll help Gorham have some bonus dice to use.
I'd like to help Gorham get bonus dice then. I have a scholarship of 3, so.
Right, Gorham is currently busy writing up the assertion that the arresting officer was paid to arrest Lorpin. So if you want to help with that, that's going to be the first set of arguments he's going to need to make, assuming that the prosecution doesn't add any additional assertions on top of it.
Okay. How best can I assist him with that? With
You tell me.
dissertation? I can help him comb over legal documents and try and make sure everything's in alignment with what he's
You
trying
could do
to
that.
argue.
That would be helpful, which would give him some pips.
Cool. I can do that then. That would be what? Perception or focus? Focus?
So you have an hour, so focus is a good one to do if you're just taking your time with things. And I'm going to say that as a special additional bonus, if you hit 4, you're going to discover something interesting.
Okay. So focus and scholarship?
Yes.
I don't get any pips or anything, huh? Nope. Not a 4. But a 3 is good.
3 is good. You've given Lorpin 3 pips for when he's giving his arguments about that, so that's excellent. Gorm right now has 1 bonus die and 3 bonus pips to use. All right.
I don't know how possible this is, but I'm thinking that Wampy spends this time ingratiating themselves with both the Justice Cars and like the people there as sort of an expert witness on the subjects that Wampy is testifying about, because that's not wrong, and 2, Wampy's fairly charming and probably can be like, yeah, I'm an expert when it comes to these sorts of things. I was personally there for some of this, for some of the investigation. So, essentially actually help Wampy when Wampy gives their testimony later. To just have
Yeah. If you want to bonus Wampy's thing, yeah. That's good. That's a good plan.
It's definitely empathy. It's almost like empathy performance, because I'm not persuading. I'm just giving off my ethos as an authority figure on the topics.
Yeah. Because it's not like you need to tell Wampy what to say. You just need Wampy to be confident.
Yeah. I'm also going to argue that I could add a potential onto this because my magic was helpful in, first off, getting to the point where I am now on the witness list, essentially, the evidence list. And I also have the trait unabashed, which is absolutely unabashed for a child to be portray themselves as an expert.
Yep.
You did druid your way down there, though.
Exactly. Wampy is uniquely qualified for what Wampy will be testifying about later, and wants to make sure everybody knows that. This is not a child testifying, this is an expert.
Excellent.
4. Fuck yeah.
Whew. Okay. Remember that. I'm not. I don't have a chart for Wampy's bonuses right now, but remember that will be a 4 bonus. I'm gonna say that was helpful. So 4 bonus pips for Wampy. Yeah. Alrighty.
So the sentiment of the general people in the room is useful. Is that what you're saying?
It is, yes. By custom, the chair of the people is supposed to be there to represent the people, and the audience is a way for the chair to get a sort of real-time sense of how the people feel about the situation. There was a serious risk in the previous session that the audience was going to be completely against Lorpin, because the ship that was destroyed was a beloved landmark, like, cultural touchstone.
It'd be like if you blew up the Golden Gate Bridge or some shit.
Right. And what's happened here is that we're showing the evidence. They show that Lorpin was basically stopping somebody from perverting that to some nefarious purpose. And so the audience is very much shifted on that and is in a more favorable frame of mind. But yeah, bonuses that apply to the audience when the chair of the people is making their decision. They're going to take those bonuses from the audience's disposition into account in their own evaluation of the situation.
All right. Well, Reggie will talk to the people if there's time.
Okay.
And they know that Lorpin is technically did the deed, right? That's all free and clear, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so Reggie will say, so we're not here to decide whether or not Lorpin indeed blew up the ship, right? This is known.
This is known.
It says, but it wasn't so long ago that the king of this city was considered a brigand, and there was the king of the city was considered a brigand, and his group was considered a brigand. And a great monument of Celebre that everyone was extremely proud of is a building sitting in the guild hall, right, or sitting in the guild rotunda that's now burnt to ashes and rubble. And now it's a mark of shame, he says. So what I know of Lorpin is that he helped us as an orphan, and he helped other people, and he's been good to us. People change, and sentiments about people change. He says, and then he says, and this is coming from an orphan of the long night. He says,
Good callback. For your references there to like historical things, and also your callback to the long night, give yourself 3 pips on your roll, and let's see how many points you add to this.
This is empathy, persuasion.
That's the most rational thing, I think. Yeah. You could argue performance if.
Persuasion's fine. What pips for, you said?
3.
3. Yeah.
Yeah, 1 for each of the references you brought up. Cool. Audience is at +5 now. And Troy, I think you're the only one who hasn't done anything in this pre-trial hour that you've gotten by providence of this man being a drunkard.
Yeah, I've been digging this whole time. I'm not sure what I can do. It might actually be nothing.
Okay, you don't have to do anything. You just sort of got a free hour that you didn't expect. All right, then. They lead the sobering up magistrate to the backup chair. He's got a big pot of coffee next to him, and they're keeping an eye on him to make sure he's not falling asleep during proceedings. And then everybody takes their seats, and the Justicar calls the trial to order. Anyone familiar with our real-life justice system would find this whole situation insane. The prosecution is the one running the trial, like going through the procedures. The judges are not judges; they're the jury. But there's only 3 of them. Yeah,
And they're all rich motherfuckers.
and they're all rich motherfuckers. That's absolutely right. Yeah, poor people can't be on juries in this society. It's just not possible. So yeah, fairness is not necessarily at play here, but cunning may well be. I'm going to tell you right now that the prosecutor definitely has better stats than Gorham does. But with your help, Gorham may be able to overcome that and get things done. So the opening sort of announcements are the prosecutor, the Justicar, introducing all of the persons into the record. So there's a person that is using both a magical recording device and doing traditional note-taking. The magical recording device is a very new thing that they don't fully trust yet, so they're still doing it the old way with written notes in a special shorthand. But who knows? Maybe it'll catch on. And so, yeah, each of the persons. So first, she introduces herself as Crimson Justicar Nariata of Celebre. She says the defendant is Lorpin. She does not give him a title, even though one is written down in the official court document. She doesn't say Lorpin of Celebre or Lorpin of Oakbrine. She just says Lorpin. She says Lorpin has asked to be represented by Sheriff Gorham of Oakbrine. We call to the magistrates to confirm this. I will say, as a Justicar of the Crimson Guard, that Gorham is a man in good standing with the law, having served as sheriff and worked alongside us, and I have no objections to him representing this witness, or this defendant. Gorham stands up, ready for questioning, but the magistrates say, there's no need to question the defending attorney. We find your recommendation sufficient. Yeah. Alpenny says, I vote in favor. Chamden says, I vote in favor. And Duros says, yeah, I guess I vote in favor as well. And so it is unanimous. Duros asked, did it need to be unanimous? They said, no. Majority was fine. And so, yep. Gorham sits back down. Nariata then introduces each of the magistrates one by one, saying, in the chair of the people, Lady Alpini Natar, in the chair of the commerce, Lord Chamden Reedpage, and in the chair of the nation, Commander Duros of the Flint Eagle Company. He actually stands when, at attention when his name is called, and the other magistrates motion him. It's like, no, sit. We're in charge up here. You don't have to stand. The Justicar then says, the following evidence has been entered and may be called upon at any moment during the reading of the assertions. Depositions by arresting officers, depositions by underwater investigative teams, depositions by investigating detective, map of the wreck of the Salty Swine, crystal ball recordings of various. She doesn't go into what they are yet. This is the original blueprint of the Salty Swine. 3 chests of treasure that were recovered from a hidden stash. She gives, obviously exploiting her position, as the Justicar gives more detail about the evidence that favors her position than the ones that do not. Then she says, the deposition of a child who has spoken to a ghost, the deposition of a child that claims the treasures as her own, and yep, and that's the list. And now we shall get into the stack of assertions. Assertions, and she's just reciting what we already know, but she says assertions are presented in the order from the top of the stack to the bottom. If a new assertion must be written, it must be written onto the top of the stack of assertions that have not yet been ruled upon. Assertions may be ruled upon as binary or factual, at the discretion of the one issuing the assertion. During assertion, each side gets to speak. The side issuing the assertion has first word, and the side refuting the assertion has last word. Assertions may be ruled upon by simple majority. However, if an assertion is egregious, there is an opportunity for a unanimous vote to have it not considered. Gorham at this point is kind of leaning back like, oh, should I put in an assertion to recuse Alpenny? Gorham is looking for advice.
I don't like.
Says if we're gonna do it, now's the time. If not, we're going forward with Alpenny until she tries to recuse herself.
I don't trust the guy on... Whoppy does not trust the alternate.
Meaning we don't want her to recuse herself at all. Or you're concerned about that?
The alternate is going to rule in favor of commerce, and this is an attack against commerce.
The alternate is also hungover from a previous night of drinking and might not even be paying attention right now.
So I guess the best bet is to not to say anything, and if she recuses herself, then
Can we file a stack that the alternate is unfit for service?
Not while he is an alternate. We can do it if he enters into the bench, but because entering the bench would mean that somebody else has left their chair, that would delay the trial for a day while they find a new alternate.
If Alpenny recuses herself, that might be necessary.
Lorpin chimes in and is like, please don't. I've gotten into 3 fights last night. Like, I can't stay in there. If they're gonna banish me, but like, don't let them do this. You see Gorham is like, it might not just be banishment, it might be worse. But yeah, let's figure this out. I guess we stay with what we've got for now. So, as you kind of look up, the Justicar is finishing explaining the process of recusing a magistrate, which requires a unanimous vote between the other 2 magistrates and the Justicar herself. And having concluded those introductory explanations of the rules, she then says, the purpose of this trial is to determine the fate of Lorpin. The final assertions will be sentencing, but we will begin at the top. She says the first assertion is by the defense, and she sits down, and Lorpin stands up. So Lorpin is about to give a attestation that the arresting officer was paid to target Lorpin. Gorham needs to roll pretty good on this persuasion, but you guys have given Gorham some help, so we're going to see.
There's also, was the evidence not found?
Nobody went out to try and look for it. You guys had a chance. You had an entire hour. Gorham does have a bonus die and 3 bonus pits.
Isn't that what we were getting receipts for?
What's that?
Didn't we get receipts for something? Between
That's
Zara
the
and...
treasure chest. That's not.
No,
covered.
nice treasure chest.
We're dealing with something something shady that Glup did.
Right.
And part of what's tricky about this one is that it is absolutely a lie. This did not happen. This is a fabrication that Glup came up with. So whether or not there's evidence of this is, yeah, that's an issue. And it's really going to come down to luck here. Okay, so Gorham is trying cunning, which he has 3 in, and propriety, which he also has a 3 in. So that's 6 dice plus the 1 bonus die and the 3 pips. We're looking at 7 dice and 3 pips.
Question. Araxi's testimony would include the statements made about, or like the details of the arrest as well, because that's why the treasure was there. And not in Araxi's possession. So that would be included. Does that help in any way with the description of the essential assault on the 2 of them?
It might. So the way this is going to work is Gorham is going to give his opening statement about the assertion. The prosecution is going to give its refutation. And then Gorham has an opportunity to present evidence. That evidence can contribute and include testimony, which will try to move the needle one way or the other. Certain actions during that presentation may move the needle specifically for one judge based on their sort of priorities. And if you can get 2 of the judges on your side instead of the prosecution side, then the assertion will be accepted. Gorham is presenting this assertion as factual, so this will either be accepted or just ignored. So right now we're going to figure out where we're starting, what our starting positions are on this one element of things. The good news is that failing with this doesn't sink the case. This is just a very helpful thing that might give points if you guys can pull it off. All right, Gorham gives a really nice opening statement on that. I need to copy the assertions into my notes here so I can keep track of their points. All right, and now Neriata. So Gorham, after basically giving a little speech about how this is a targeted attack, that this Anu was chosen as a scapegoat for something, some other force is trying to draw attention onto this Anu and away from other factors. Neriata is going to use her focus, which is a 4, and her scholarship, which is also a 4. She has no other bonuses or pips involved. She only gets 4 successes. She gives a pretty straightforward speech about how whether or not the source of it is from a bribe is not relevant to the case. That Lorpin's guilt or innocence is based on Lorpin's actions and not based on who drew attention to Lorpin's actions. But this does not seem to be as strong a piece as what Gorham gave with his bonuses that you got. So far, things are looking up. And now it's time to give evidence. So Gorham is going to call Araxi to give evidence about the circumstances of Gorham's arrest. Araxi, you have the floor.
Okay. So, Araxi, it almost has to jump forward in their testimony, but,
You don't have to give
stands
your
up
full testimony. You'll be called again for further testimony when it's relevant.
for, is that, Araxi, says, when Lorpin was arrested, and was also arrested myself. And during the course of the arrest, the Crimson Guard officers initially immediately targeted me as soon as I arrived at the house for arrest, despite no evidence of my involvement and the fact that I am literally too young to have been involved in this crime. Understandable, given their aggression and drawn weapons, I ran, and Araxi's going to, like, stand up and show some of the bruising that is still healing and stuff, and say they pursued me throughout the night as a known what's the word for a mentee, I guess, as a known mentee of Lorpins, and
I mean, they were calling you an accomplice, is what they were calling you. Yeah.
But they called me Lorpin's accomplice as an attempt to justify. Again, I was born after this. And even after finding me, they continued to be on me to the point that I fell unconscious. The officer in charge at the barracks the next day quite quickly realized that I could not have possibly been involved and let me out, but the damage was done.
Awesome. I want you to make... so when you make this roll, you're getting 2 pips from your pointing out that you are too young to have possibly been involved. That's an excellent thing. But also, I'd like you to give yourself pips equal to half of the amount of tax you still have on your injuries.
That is 3 extra pips.
All right, there you go. So a total of 5 extra pips. You're appealing... you could go either way on this. This is you're either appealing to their logic or their emotions.
I think I appealed more to logic in that statement.
Okay. Yeah, I heard a lot of logical stuff, so that's a good one. So that would be...
Do I get anything for my outfit?
Your outfit is...
Well, I have the uniform now.
Oh, no.
Not for this, but
not for this. That's going to come up later, but not for this.
All right. Because I can't argue that I'm wearing both.
Right.
Tragic time for my internet to cut.
All right, and what were the stats you used there?
Focus plus persuasion.
Awesome. Okay. All right, you've given Gorm 2 dice to use in his next roll on this. So Nariata, then in her response to this, rather than questioning you on this, calls as witness the arresting officer. who comes up and gives a very different and very deceitful explanation of events. The officer says, we were responding to the investigations of our superior officer. The director who had been researching this had received information that said that this particular agent needed to be brought in, and cautioned us that the agent had assistance from other nefarious organizations. And they list specifically the mercenary company that you guys found in the woods south of Oakbrine. This is given that they had an intimate relationship, then we presumed that any assistance that would be received would be violent in nature and responded accordingly. They're going to roll their blatant lie about the nature of things.
I imagine they would stop Araxi if Araxi tried to say anything, but Araxi is going to flash the injuries again, just sitting in the chair.
If Araxi wants to say anything, they can't stop you. They're going to try. They're going to tell you not
Araxi needs to not get kicked out of the courtroom yet.
Yeah, and
so
Araxi could potentially give them bonus dice against your goals here if you want.
No, I don't. Araxi's just going to make sure that the injuries that Araxi has, particularly to the face, are still visible.
Okay.
I don't know what that does, but
not a strong public speaker. Oh, that really screws up the roll too. All right. Yeah, you're definitely your showing off your injuries has negatively impacted things here. Okay, so the testimony of the arresting officer did not go as well as Nariata had hoped. While they are lying, they're not doing a very good job of it. And so they've given her a little bit of a boost to her arguments, but are not being particularly helpful. At this point, is there anything anyone can think of to advise Lorpin that might sway one of the judges in particular on this issue?
Well, the fact that he was that despite Araxi being not compliant, he was super compliant to the rest as well. He was if he was actually thought he was guilty of stuff, he probably would have tried to have fled as Araxi, but instead he had complied and to be arrested.
That's a great point.
Also, the conditions post-arrest that Lorpin has been kept in.
Another great point too.
I think there might even be an appeal to the people. Do you want your justice system to just, without any cause, chase you down and beat you to death, even not to death, but beat you almost half to death, even though there is no actual charge against you?
That is a very good point, and that is a point specific to the people. Gorm is going to incorporate all of those points into their speech. Did anyone else want to give anything else for Gorm to add? Cool. So here we go. Gorm is going to make closing arguments on this particular assertion. Let's see, you gave Gorm 2 extra dice to use on this one. Gorm is going to lean on empathy and persuasion this time to try to get the judge of the people maximally overwhelmed on this one. Plus the pips from your advice. There we go. Nariata, on the other hand, is switching to leaning on cunning and propriety. She wants to point out that these are Crimson Justicar who would never do wrong. All right, so we've got a difference of 4 points between these now. Let me see what the relationships on the judges are. This is a quick scholarship check for one of the judges. Oh, that is... All right, that's good, really good for you. You guys wanted that roll to be low, and it was. Okay, yeah, so on this first assertion, the chair of the people votes that the assertion is acceptable. The chair of commerce votes that it is not. They vote that it is not relevant to the case and should not have been here. And the chair of the nation looks at the two, knowing that both are scholars and doesn't know who to follow. And so instead, he looks out to the people. And from what he can see of the people generally support this. And he thinks that, okay, must be good for the nation then to have the people not be afraid of officers that are doing wrong. I think I need to vote to accept this assertion. And so the assertion is accepted, that the arresting officer was paid to target Lorpin. I figure out a good way to do this. There we go. Okay. Next up, the prosecution is going to present that Lorpin stole treasure from the Salty Swine. And so she gets up and gives a grand presentation about how we're about to see evidence of Lorpin taking treasure directly from the Salty Swine. I am seeing the time and realizing this might be a two-parter, but we'll get as far through as we can. So we've been going for about 2 hours now. I'm probably okay for another like half hour though, if you guys are.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
The D is for defense, and the P is for prosecution. Just letting you know as you color code things there.
Just trying to think of a pretty way to do it, but it's not super easy.
Good grief. Nariata is just rolling bad tonight. So she gives a really pathetic description of, like, I'm going to present that 3 chests of treasure have been found, which we are going to try to convince you are the property of Lorpin and are ill-gotten gains from his robbery and sinking of the Salty Swine. Gorham gets up.
This is where he gets our receipts, right?
Yeah. Gorham he is just all swagger with this one. So Gorham is going cunning plus persuasion. He knows he's got the receipts. He's just ready to make it real. Says the prosecution is about to embarrass themselves by presenting evidence that has absolutely nothing to do with this case. Good luck, madam. She looks a little nervous about that. And she is starting to think that maybe it would have benefited her to address this before addressing the issue with the arresting officer. And she is now sort of feeling a little outplayed. Alright, she brings in the 3 chests of treasure to present as evidence, as well as the team that recovered them. So this would be the underwater investigation team. The team gives a description of where they found it. They show a sort of it's not like not like a holographic image like you guys have been collecting with yours. It's really just somebody copied onto waterproof paper with one of those little, like, wax underwater writing tools. This symbol that pretty much only Araxi and Gorham really recognize, I think, and Glup. It's the air spirits symbol from Anu religious practice. But everybody kind of recognizes it as an Anu symbol. And so they say this symbol was marked over top of a hidden cache located between Gorham's home and the wreck of the Salty Swine. And these 3 treasure chests were recovered from that. And the prosecutor then says, thank you, sends them out and gives a little speech about, like, here it is. These are his ill-gotten gains. This testimony now, if this assertion is taken as true, it will destroy the defense's argument that Lorpin received no enrichment, which is coming up a few steps later in the stack. So this is a really important one for you guys to refute. Who will be presenting the evidence?
So was, I think, the other part of Araxi?
So Araxi was going to testify that it belonged to her, right?
Right.
And then also you have the chest with the receipt from the Thieves Guild showing that these chests are the same chests that were taken from the mining cooperative.
So I suppose Zara and Laika shared the receipt and that evidence with the attorney.
Okay.
I don't know if we need to testify to that or anything like that, but for chain
You
of
probably
custody.
will, because that was not listed as evidence entered at the beginning of the trial.
Wapi could also testify to the as having been part of an underwater team who has investigated this, and that there was no evidence that there is actually treasure on board the ship.
You also have Wampy's testimony that the rescue team they were supposed to be rescuing the survivors was actually killing the survivors, they may have taken the treasure. Because there was treasure on the ship, which you guys are going to see later when you show that crystal ball.
Oh, like there were treasure chests? I
No.
thought it was just weapons.
It was weapons, is what it was. That was the treasure. Yeah.
Oh, right. But you said that it could have been sold. Okay, I get it now.
All right. Zara, if you want to take the floor at first, just to present your evidence, which will be very useful when Araxi goes to make her testimony.
Yeah. So Zara will, I don't know where to bring the evidence, I guess, up to wherever the evidence table is, I guess.
Yeah, so let me set the scene for you. What you have is it's a pretty big room. Down in the sort of middle of the room is a seat where Lorpin and Gorham are sitting in front of a table. And to the left of that, on a high raised podium, is the prosecution, the Justicar. And then sitting across from all of them is this like high raised dais with 3 chairs at 3 different heights, and a 4th chair back behind them for the magistrates. And then in the opposite side, behind you guys, that's where there's this sort of like bleachers of raised seating for the audience. So it dips down the bleachers. There's a flat space where the stuff happens, and it rises up the other side. Off to the right-hand side of that sort of open pit, that's where the evidence is. Physical evidence. Obviously, testimonial evidence is kept in the bleachers as part of the audience.
Okay. So Zara will walk up to the evidence table and hand them the chest and the receipt, and basically say, I'd like to admit this into evidence. This was obtained from the Thieves Guild and shows that the chests in question were in fact not taken from the Salty Swine.
All right. The Justicar says, this evidence was not previously admitted or registered. We would need a vote by the magistrates as to whether or not to accept it. So you're going to speak now directly to the magistrates to convince them to accept this as a piece of evidence.
All right. So I will go up and, I guess, approach the bench where the magistrates are located.
Yep.
And Zara will say, so I'm sure all of us here are looking for justice. And if justice is what we're looking for, then I humbly request that the evidence that I just brought to the evidence table be admitted. It does prove that the chests in question were not from the Salty Swine, and I think is a critical piece of evidence if you're going to be claiming that Lorpin had received some enrichment from sinking the Salty Swine. And I take it everyone here are honest people, so if we really want an honest trial, then you will admit this evidence into the case.
You could also emphasize that these documents are from the Thieves Guild, and it's basically like getting information from the fucking IRS, you know?
Do you want to speak on this issue as well?
Sure, I'd like to bring that to the table as well.
Cool. Kristen, go ahead and make your empathy plus persuasion roll. And then, go ahead and make your speech. You can speak while she's rolling, yeah.
Okay, perfect. In addition to the obviously wonderful ideals that my esteemed colleague just brought to your attention, we would like to note the veracity of these documents and provide to you that they are official documents from the Thieves Guild that definitely identify these chests as coming from the mining cooperative, from the recent caravan of booty that just came through the town.
Excellent. Make your persuasion roll as well, and you get to add 4 pips for the quality of the document.
So what is it? Persuasion and what?
So for Kristen, it's persuasion plus empathy. She was calling on their sense of justice. You are calling on rationality. So I would say either cunning or focus.
Cool. It is the same. All right, let me see.
I think focus is probably actually the best one to represent what you're doing here. Bam! Okay. So the nobody's actually rolling against you. You're just trying to push past the difficulty scores on the magistrates. You didn't need any successes for the Magistrate of Commerce. He is already on board with this, says this is an issue of commerce, and it is in the best interest of commerce that it be clear where things come from when we're dealing with stolen goods. So that's, yeah, he's on board. Kristen, you definitely were targeting the people with your speech. And that was good, but then you kind of rolled kind of low. So they didn't fully grasp what you mean by that, and she is, after all, a scholar, and she's very interested in procedures. Like, there was an appropriate procedure for when this should have been brought to our attention. This is a little bit last minute. But then, Jackie, that roll on the person who's representing the nation, he's just like, he doesn't really understand all this stuff. He is looking for help from the people who do. But you give that sort of presentation about, like, this is official documents. He's like, yeah, it's official documents from the Thieves Guild. Of course they're valid evidence. It's like, put them in. Absolutely. And so you get your 2 votes yes, 1 vote no. 2 votes yes is all you needed, and the evidence is accepted. Additionally, your 5 successes contribute towards Gorham's next little speech he's going to give after after the Justicar makes her. She's actually going to make a quick strategy check. Okay, she realizes immediately this is a losing fight and withdraws her assertion. So the assertion that Lorpin stole treasure from the Salty Swine is withdrawn. Good job. How are we representing this on? Oh, I see how you're doing it. Okay, clever. Gotcha.
Technically, you added another variable.
If the assertion is withdrawn, Araxi will ask very politely, when can I reclaim my belongings?
That is not an issue for this court to decide. Your claim can be made with the Crimson Guard at the appropriate time.
I basically walk over to whoever's like in charge of maintaining the evidence as available. There's probably a guard there, right?
There is, yeah. And your little bodyguard comes over with you. So go ahead and make a persuasion roll on that. They did just say, like, they essentially accepted that it was yours without actually having you testify. But yeah, make a persuasion roll and add 4 pips for your uniform.
Persuasion, 4 pips for uniform. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. The money is tagged with your name. It's not released into your custody yet.
I also probably can't carry the 3 chests away without some assistance at this point.
You wouldn't be able to carry one of them away. These are huge and heavy. And they are full of gold, which has miraculously not been touched yet.
Yeah, mercenary friends, though, help you carry your gold away.
You do. So it's tagged with your name right now, and that is something that you can address with your new mercenary friends in a bit. All right, which brings us to the next assertion from the defense. And this one is one that the prosecution is going to have a hell of a time refuting. Because the Fishing Guild is basically turned on the prosecution. So, Gorham gets up and gives the presentation that Lorpin is a citizen of Celebre and a member of good standing of the Celebran Fishing Guild. That is given to much applause by the members of the Fishing Guild that are in the audience. And so, he's going to make his roll here. He's given a little flourish on this one. And he's getting pips from the audience. The audience is currently at a +5. All right, so this is like an easy one for him. He's like, Lorpin has participated in the Celebran economy, has resided within Celebre, and is a member in good standing with the Celebran Guild. Lorpin is definitely a citizen of Celebre. Now, Nariata has some things she wants to say, but let's find out how well she can say them. She is rolling her cunning plus persuasion on this one. I mean, that could have been worse, could have been a lot better, but she is fighting under some serious pressure here because her opening message is, I have signed affidavits from the Fishing Guild that they are disavowing Lorpin. And the Fishing Guild is just booing her down from the audience. You can see immediately she has lost the chair of the people in this one. There's no hope of her getting their vote. So she's turning to the issues of commerce. She can't, however, argue that Lorpin is stealing from people. So instead, she comments that Lorpin damaged a merchant vessel, and whether or not Lorpin is a member in standing of Celebre at the time, by attacking a Celebran vessel, Lorpin is acting against Celebran interests. She doesn't want to step too hard on a point she's going to make in one of her later assertions, though. So she just kind of is wiggling around the issue. And it doesn't seem like it's working out too well for her. But you do get to present evidence. Gorham actually doesn't feel like much evidence is needed in this situation. Gorham does say, as whatever your affidavit may say, the Fishing Guild is here to personally represent their support of Lorpin. This is not just a crowd of fishermen, but we have here guild leadership present in the audience, and he begins introducing them. Each one kind of gives their testimony of like the good things that Lorpin has done, the teaching of the new generation of fishermen, and all that stuff. And yeah, so Gorham gives his closing remarks. Fumbles a little bit. He probably could have practiced that one a little bit more. Her closing remarks are a little bit more together, but not enough to overcome the initial wave of things. And so this one is unanimous. All of the judges recognize that Lorpin is definitely a Celebran. She tries to talk about his history of coming from the Anu Isles, his period spent as a privateer, but then the commander in the chair of the nation says, "Yeah, privateering, that's good, honest Celebran work," and that completely kind of shuts down her arguments. So that is accepted. Good job. You didn't really need to do anything for that one. You kind of did it all yesterday. Which brings us to Lorpin acted in the best interest of Celebre. This is a somewhat more challenging issue to present. Because this is going to start getting into the weeds as to why it all happened. And because this one is complicated and interesting, and because it is getting rather late, I think it might be best that we save this for next session. Is everybody okay with that? Because this one is going to require most of you to testify, and you're going to be bringing out the big evidence at this point.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Alrighty. Sorry, I didn't want to... I wanted to kind of do this all at once, but it's big. It's
the trial is complicated as hell.
It is. It's legal shit is complicated. What can I say?
Yeah, I do love the I love that the fake evidence somehow was barely argued than the actual physical evidence.
Alrighty, so we're going to bring this to a stop here. I really like the way you've charted that out. That's really nice. So in terms of the functional difference between accepted, denied, and withdrawn, this comes down to the whether something is considered factual or binary. Factual things are either accepted as true or treated as unknown, which is what withdrawn effectively is. If something is put in as a binary assertion, then it will either be accepted as true or accepted as false, which would be denied. That's a good description of that. And that has a very different thing. So the two assertions that were accepted, both of them have been taken, because they were both written on paper. Both of those have been taken and actually pinned to a board from left to right. The one that's withdrawn has just been thrown out. It's not anywhere. And as the trial proceeds, that board will start filling from left to right. And the assertions that were made were at the beginning of the trial. When we start getting towards the end, the assertions that were accepted are themselves pieces of evidence that will be highly impactful on the results of the final assertions relating to what punishment to met out. So you're off to a good start. Got two of the defense's assertions accepted, and the prosecution's only assertion so far withdrawn. It was very tactical of her to withdraw that too. If she'd allowed you guys to continue presenting a mountain of evidence about that, like once she saw the note from the Thieves Guild and the way that happened, if Araxi had gotten up there and given another speech wearing that uniform of a respected mercenary company,
uniform of mercenary and bruises.
Yeah, credibility was crumbling. She needs to retain credibility with the magistrates in order to pull off what she's going to be pulling off in the back half. And that's what's going on. everything that she's doing right now is in preparation for the back half of this trial when she gets to really sink her teeth in and try to get Lorpin executed. Or imprisoned, depending on how that assertion goes through. But she left that. She's definitely playing dirty. Like, she left the imprisonment assertion up to the defense to present. She's been doing this for a long time, knows all the tricks, and has no problem using them.
Would you say that she's a morally bankrupt person?
You do not get that impression, but you could look more into her history if you want to.
I assume that this could sort of be the moment where the trial breaks for lunch or something.
Yeah, that's a good one. It would be about, that's right, you guys started like really early in the morning, so it'd be like almost noon, probably like 11 o'clock at this point.
Next bit is going to take a while to get through, so everybody goes and goes have lunch,
And maybe prepares for the back half of the trial.
Yep. And for this next one, Gorham is hitting the books hard and like practicing in front of a mirror and stuff, because this next one is going to be big. If Gorham can pull off the Lorpin Act in the best interest of Celebre, the rest of this is going to be smooth sailing. But that's a hard one to prove, right? Because it's complicated. And that's the one where you're going to start presenting evidence that might cause the seat of the people to recuse. That's where things get risky. Good news is that after lunch, the backup might be a little bit sobered up, a little less hungover, more engaged in the proceedings.
And we'd really have to if the backup is in there, we really have to hammer down the commerce.
Yeah, at that point, you basically have 2 commerce and a nation seat.
And the nation seat mostly votes as the commerce anyway, because he just follows.
Yeah, because he doesn't completely understand the whole system. He's got this general idea that, like, because they keep explaining it to him. He's like, you're supposed to pretend you're what the king would do if you're the part of the king's mind that's only worried about the nation. All right, I guess then if we're going to break for lunch, we do have a little bit of time before I stop the recording here. If anybody wanted to do a little bit of oppositional research, I'll kind of give you a free rundown of somebody if you want to.
I mean, definitely.
Who do you want to research?
The I mean, if
Okay.
we can undermine the credibility of the prosecution further.
Cool. You don't need to roll for this. Her history is on file. It's public record. She joined the Crimson Guard when she was 15 years old. That was like 40-some years ago. She was on the wall when Violithan and the Mordicans attacked Celebre. She was injured in that battle. Eventually, Violithan became king. So a brigand who attacked the city at one point became king. She's gone through that whole transition. She has remained a fighting force. She was not deployed to the north when the demon invasion occurred, so she didn't get any action in that. She was still in local guard situation. That was about 30 years ago. But since then, she's transitioned into legal studies and has spent the past about 25 years as a justicar, meting out justice. You do not see any sense of corruption in her. She seems to be Crimson Guard through and through. If there's any kind of like racial bias against Anu, you haven't seen any pattern of that, but there also haven't been a lot of cases with Anu that she would deal with, as she is not typically dealing with nautical stuff. She primarily has been dealing with land-based stuff. But the rotations are random, so this is the case she caught this time. You do know that pretty much all of the prep work that she's done has been done in tandem with an investigator. And this is also a member of the Crimson Guard, but it's not somebody who goes and stands up and talks. This is like Sherlock Holmes, but not necessarily that smart. But still like a smart guy. Just, you know.
An investigator / detective.
Straight up, his job is to investigate, and it's the investigator that's done almost all of the background legwork and gathering of evidence for her. She's really just sort of the voice and the presentation of it. And also, in the event that things got unruly, she may be in her late 50s, but she has maintained her physique, and she is combat ready. She specializes in polearms, but she carries a sword just like all Crimson Guard and knows how to use it too.
What do we know about can we find information about the investigator that found out all of this information?
Yes, and that investigator is on the list of witnesses, so that they may be called. And yeah, this investigator has kind of been in the background for all of this. You do find out who it is, they are. This is their sort of their job. Their job is to sit in a room with like pins and red thread and red yarn between pins and figure out what's going on in Celebre. And this is a person who put together a complicated series of connections between these brigands in the south that were getting blackmail payments from somebody, and then suddenly they weren't, and then suddenly they disappeared. By studying the patterns, this person pieced together that Lorpin was the sinker of the Salty Swine and was back in town. You do not get any sense that this person is in any way improprietous or was specifically targeting Lorpin. This person was basically a cog in the machine. Their job was to find patterns and identify where these patterns led to criminals and then report. And they did their job. Where things got messy was the arresting officers. And even though the evidence against them was fabricated, their bigotry was not. They are absolutely anti-Anu. They're from a younger generation, and their minds have been polluted by really not having good leadership around them. They're a bunch of kids that are kind of given authority and left to their own devices. And so they're,
Bullies.
They're bullies.
Yeah, and like a day or two later, now they're gonna find that forged stuff in one of their lockers.
It may have been found already. You actually don't know. That you know that that the arresting officer was present as a witness, but you don't know what is going on behind the scenes right now for that. And there's not enough time in the lunch break to fully investigate that aspect. But if somebody wants to leave the trial and investigate that during the trial next session, that is totally allowed, because you, again, don't have to be there.
Yeah.
And with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and close the recording and get some sleep.
All right.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.